Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at Dicey Dungeons. This is a 2019 game. I've been going really hard on more mature rated games lately, so I wanted something that looked a little bit more family friendly, a little bit more fun. One of the things to notice here, particularly, is that under gameplay you can play in relaxed mode that would reduce all health by 25%, and very kindly, it still does not affect any progress or achievements and can be turned off or on at any point, making this game promise something very nicely. This game launches in windowed mode, but you can change it to full screen very quickly in that, and then the only other thing would be potentially to maybe turn down the audio a little bit, but the audio gets quiet in this menu, so when you get out of this menu it's going to get back up to being loud, so that's not particularly helpful when you're adjusting the audio for it to drop a certain percentage. This game is selling itself now as having some free DLC in it, which definitely implies that this is more of a story-based game than you would think, considering how most dice games are infinitely replayable because you're rolling die, and they tend not to have really narrative experiences, whereas this game kind of feels like it's going to have a bit of a narrative experience. What's funny is there's been recently, and maybe a year or two after this game, another game where you have effectively a anthropomorphic dice character that you're playing as, and that there is a focus on dice. It's probably a little surprising that there aren't more games that just directly show you dice, because so much of what happens in the background of computer programming and video game programming are just effectively dice rolls. They are pick a random number between this and this, whether it would be 1 through 6 like most dice, or if you're doing a D20 like Dungeons and Dragons, or a D100, something like that. Some method to pick a random number is used in video games, and so that is visually depicted very easily with dice. Let's hop in. So the jester says, welcome to... I guess I have to press A to continue here. It is a trend now on more modern games to not get a prompt to press A, and potentially just have any button move the story forward if you press any button at all, which I guess that keeps the screen cleaner, but I could see it popping up a press A after 20 seconds or so in a lot of games, that they do that just so you don't sit here and just think the guy is talking incredibly slow. Obviously, I guess we're assuming no voice acting in this game, so they're going to keep it kind of at a lower budget. This version of this game seems to be version 2.1, so with a version 2. Anything, you'd assume that the game is twice as big now than when it originally launched. So yeah, we get some gibberish sound effects. Dicey Dungeons. The only game show where you could win your heart's greatest desire, but will you fulfill your dreams or your nightmares? Let's find out with our host for this evening and for eternity. It's Lady Luck. Thank you all my dears and my darlings, and welcome back to my labyrinth of endless terror. Will our newest contestants win big or lose it all?
Oh, no.
Let's find out as we meet. So I guess they are toying with people here. This sounds kind of nefarious. The warrior. Whoa, I'm a dice. Yes, dear, that's how this works. Tell me, warrior, what secret emptiness has driven you to risk eternal imprisonment at the hands of fate? What? My dear, what are you playing for today? Oh, I'm playing to win the monster truck and to become the strongest man in the world. Inspirational. Well, you know what we say here in Dicey Dungeons. luck might be against you, but it's too late to change your mind now. So, this whole thing does seem very nefarious, and that there is this kind of underlining story that they've established while not even really establishing what the gameplay mechanic is yet. So I'm using a controller, so it's saying use the left stick to walk towards this. So each dot here represents, I guess, a step where maybe a random encounter or a random event might happen. Then you have to press A to open. And we found a sword. Do sword blank dice damage. Kind of feels like there should be something in that blank dice. Do some number damage. It's an enemy charge. So now we're going backwards towards this space looking Space Marine type space armor alien. I guess maybe blank means that there's no modifier, and there might be a weapon that does does a sword attack style damage +1, and we would unlock something like that. We're definitely not getting explained much, but it is moving fast enough that I can excuse that, and the game visually and audio wise is pretty flashy. So yeah, he's called Space Marine. New contestant. It's time to fire up the plasma blaster again. Alright. Press A to select your sword. So we'll have multiple things. Eventually the Space Marine has 23 damage and 3 dice. So he may be rolling 3 dice at the same each turn, where I have, I think, only 1 dice. Press A again to select your dice. So we'll get potentially, I think the mechanic is going to be, if I would speculate here, we'll roll dice and then we'll have to place the dice in the empty spots, which means there will be cards that will want more than 1 dice. So this is going to do 5 damage and just activate it. Nice, because you used the 5, it did 5 damage. Now it's his turn. Press X to end turn when you're ready. Interesting that you have to end your turn. You'd think it would automatically do that when you have no more dice to play. So he's going to roll 3 dice. And somehow that's going to do 10 damage. But it has a counter on it. Interesting. And so his dice rolls reduced the cooldown counter on it, is I guess what you would call that. And so it's charging up, and it will be either the next turn or the turn after that it fires for 10 damage. How much health do I have? Interestingly, it's not showing me any health at the bottom of the screen for me. Oh no, you rolled a 1. It's okay, this happens from time to time. The warrior has a special ability. You can reroll up to 3 times a turn. Well, that's going to make it certainly easy. It's called combat roll. 3 uses this turn. So now we're selecting that card to reroll. A 4, try again. A 3, try one more time. A 6, perfect. Let's use it on our sword. Well, inherently this is going to make a lot of dice rolls happen in the game, but I guess that is the focus on a game called Dicey Dungeons. Alright. Problem here is I would need to survive 1 attack. If I get 6 damage next turn, and 6 damage next turn after that. Which now we can see at the bottom that we have 1 dice and 24 half health. We also seem to have a fury gauge. He hits me for something, some amount. I guess 10 damage. He rolled enough to attack. I wasn't paying attention enough. somehow in trying to pay attention to the beginning of this game, I managed to not pay attention. It moved while I was looking at the lower left instead of looking in the middle of the screen. It says ouch. When you take damage, it charges up your limit break. Press right bump to use fury. Double next action activate? Sure. Or we're all charged up raw. Well, I guess then with a 6 that would do 12 damage. And it repeats the action, it doesn't just double the attack. And it gives us 1 gold coin and 1 XP, so we know there are XP and gold currency elements. Which definitely makes us feel like this game is a rogue type RPG element where we're going to upgrade our stats throughout the gameplay. Battle Axe with a max of 4 does twice the amount of damage. So now we have a new attack. And we have another enemy. You gotta have to, like, applaud this game. There's relatively very little animation happening in this game, and yet they're making the most of it by having a unique cartoony art style and then making 2 frames that just loop back and forth to give a little bit of motion to it. The game would look a lot less interesting if there was no action, no motion happening at all on the screen. And it would look less interesting, certainly, if it was just a generic warrior character fighting generic enemies. We're going to be fighting a hothead level 1 this time. And then the art around the edge makes it more interesting, and the transition screens make it interesting. The music could get annoying fairly quickly. The battle axe is more powerful, but it needs 4 or less. So, for sword, I want to do this, but how would I select a different weapon? Or can I not select a different weapon? The D-pad just does the same as the left stick. The right stick's not doing anything. The left trigger and right trigger is not doing anything. And we know right bump activates fury. So it seems like you may have to play these in order, or they're just forcing me to play this way at this point. See, okay, so yeah, it had locked me into doing that first one with the 6, and now we can select the other cards, and it seems like at most you're going to have like 5 cards on the screen at any time, so the game's not going to get super crazy. So there we got a 4. And that does kind of a massive amount of damage. 14 damage on the first turn. Some equipment will inflict status effects when used. The fireball, for example, is going to burn, so it deals fire damage, and it burns 1 dice, which I assume burning 1 dice removes it from play for the rest of the fight. And it also needs an even number instead of an odd number, which that also is going to turn out to be an interesting way in which they can make this more varied as far as the potential requirements. I assume fire damage does extra damage each turn, so if this does, for instance, 6 fire damage this turn, well, it very possibly will do 6 fire damage the next turn, and the turn after that forever, or maybe it only does burn damage 1 turn after the initial attack. We would have to just see how that plays out. Oh, It doesn't burn Hothead's dice. That's what I thought it was going to do. It burns one of my dice. Which... If I used 2 health, I could do like 4 burn damage on this guy. Let's combat roll this. We are now in a point where we're like in a good position. I could re-roll, or I can just choose this. So I assume a burning dice would do flame damage to the opponent back at them, but maybe it won't. Maybe it just costs 2 health. We can just activate our limit break while we're doing that and do that. And now level 2, our maximum health increased by 4 hearts, and we received an extra die, so we're making good progress here. You get all your health back when you level up. So there is definitely a different way this could go, in that this could be a rogue game that you would want to play over and over again, or this could be a game that's really feels like a rogue game, but you'd really only want to play it once. Can rearrange your equipment from here. Let's check that out. Interesting. You always have the reroll as an option, but if it's an attack, it seems like it's going to take 2 spaces up, and if it's an effect, it's going to take up 1 space, which that does kind of imply that you could have 6 things going. And since the backpack's not that big, it also implies that there's not that many items or effects you could get in the first place. I question heavily if you ever get to play as too many other characters besides the warrior, but looking at the logo from on Steam, it does seem to imply that there probably are at least 2 other character classes. Bump. Look, it's the exit. Right. I imagine there's nothing special about doing this. So now adjuster level 2, and then we're exiting. I imagine it probably takes you to a slightly different type of dungeon, different visuals. Jester says, "Hey there, friend. Your enthusiasm is adorable, but I'll let you in on a secret. It's time for you to die." The Jester changes equipment every turn as an innate ability. If you want, you can see what the enemy's moves are from here with the right stick. So he has Snowflake, Snowflake, Snowflake. Any odd number does freezes 1 die. Alright. We'll start with that. We will reroll, 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 bump, and then do a 4, and then this needs an even, so it can't do anything there, so I'm just gonna have to end the turn. And that's probably how this is gonna go until you end up with 4 or 5 dice, which I suspect you will, and I suspect you will at some point maybe have 6 spots. It's interesting how they laid that out too. I was expecting it to just all be on 1 row always. So he's got 2 odd numbers. Now, what does the left bump do when I hit frozen? It gives me an instruction. Turns the highest dice rolled into a 1. Okay. So, re-roll. 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 Okay. So we put a 4 here. We bump this to a 6 and a 1, which is interesting. I didn't expect the bump to work that way. I expected it to magically do a 7. And then we have no moves here. He's doing buzzer, buzzer, buzzer this time, which is going to inflict 1 shock, which we don't really know what a shock is going to do. Shocking seems to have gotten rid of the freeze elements. Temporary disables random equipment. Unable can use the dice to unshock. Okay. I don't know which one I specifically would want to get rid of. Here, let's just not do that. Let's start with the thing that would do the most damage, which is to bump this and then do this. We can't do Fury yet. And that didn't really help me any. Now he's doing Spark, and we know what burning the dice does. So we know there's a fire and ice and electric. So there's probably a earth too. I guess the question is what happens if we re-roll this dice. What happens if we bump this dice? No, that would just cost 2 health. So unless we were just trying to charge our Fury, the move here would be to bump this, take this, put that there, take this, put that there, like, take 2 damage just to do that and do matchstick, and then that will burn him, so now he won't be able to use 1 dice without killing himself, and that's the best we can do. So we'll do Whisper, which I guess is an earth effect. Temporary weakens random equipment. Equipment becomes less powerful, reducing their max, which, I mean, that alone puts them at 0, and you don't even have to end the turn there. I could have sworn it was time for you to die. Is my watch wrong? What time do you make it? So we won, and we've got 2 XP, but it does seem like now we need 4 XP to level up instead of 2 XP, which I think is what we needed previously. The fact that the OK button is grayed out the way it is, and the equipment button is grayed out this way, is, I think, a bad color pick there. It just doesn't really pop. It probably should be closer to the blue of the warrior, or maybe even the red of the ground faceplates. Although if there was red, it would look like health. But maybe go with green or another color palette, maybe yellow. But gray is just not in any way complementary as a color if you looked at the color wheel compared to the other colors on the screen. The bright blue of the warrior, the yellow of the gold and the stars, the red, the white of the text. So each floor can potentially, it looks like, have 6 enemies available to it. And so, yeah. I feel like it's probably best to do this fight first. I have no idea how long this game is, so probably should stop the episode here. But yeah, we've barely been playing 30 minutes. I think we'd want to play a little bit more. Right. There definitely is a danger here in that you could end up just like burning through this game fairly quickly, or you could get very repetitive with it. Let's see. We've now leveled up to level 3, increasing my max health, which helps us more. So we could get a shield, or we could do 2 the damage to the enemy, but also 1 times the damage to yourself, which that doesn't make the boomerang sound like a good option. So I guess the question is, would we want to take that risk and replace something here? And I guess I really don't want to. Spike shield is a little too random. You only get damage if you get an even number, or you get shield if it's an odd number, unless we start fighting things that are doing massive amounts of damage. That doesn't really make the most amount of sense. I like that the music is changing here. And I like that all the enemies aren't also dice, because that would be boring. But yeah. The level layouts of the dungeons are inconsequential, obviously. So you're not going to really get a lot going on there. Just re-roll this. But you know what? I could have just bumped to a 6 also to get that burn. There's also poison effects. A limit break is ready. Venus flytrap. On the 6 you get +2 health. So if I could get that, that would be better as an effect. But very possibly a lot of these effects are not things you would ever be able to use yourself. Let's just start with this one. Alright, well. Bump this one to do that. Then you do that and you win. I'm not sure I took a single bit of health. And yeah, we're gonna just need double the amount of XP each time. Now we're back at full health. We have a second bump, which, I mean, it is definitely questionable as to whether maybe a second bump would be more useful than Matchstick, which has that even requirement. even though matchstick can be used multiple times, that would only make sense if you had a lot of items. Oh, a new adventurer, come in. Welcome to Dungeon Supplies for you. I've got some great stuff in stock. Need socks, weapons, a small house plant. Alright, so this is what we're spending our money on. A dagger at max 3 does extra damage and arguably is better than matchstick. For 3 gold, that may be not that much, or it may be a lot, because we really only have 5 gold. Or healing crystals would be a max 3 to refill your health. Now, that is an interesting thought, certainly, as to, is it better to refill your health or do 3 more damage? A good defense is often a good offense first and just doing more damage, but you are getting fury if you keep yourself alive longer, which doubles all the actions in a turn, and each turn with the other attacks you can do more damage than 3. So I think I would lean more towards buying this one. Did I buy that one? Yes, I did. And then it just kicked me completely out of that. Which I find that weird. If I could sell bump, that would be interesting. Well, I can't do anything with dagger at the moment, so I think I would choose not to buy the dagger in favor of there maybe being an achievement for buying all 3 at a shop later on, or just saving your money. There are a massive amount of achievements for this game, so it does feel like there is definitely a possibility in which you are going to play this game a lot more than you possibly would think. There is also, I guess, a possibility that well, so you can't move any further if you're fighting people, but you can move ahead with if you're just standing on food. It could also be a case that this game just hands out achievements like candy. So far it hasn't done that. Stereo head is weak to shock. And we have a limit break. So if I was to do this, and then this, and this, and then Fury. Maybe I needed to activate Fury first. We didn't really look at his moves. But if I give myself extra crystals, that didn't seem to do anything. I do think I messed up there. I think I should have unlocked Fury first and then attacked. So, that's a lesson to learn. Interesting. Recovery healing crystal was weak in there. So now it can only work with the 2. In the long run, if we're fighting a lot of enemies, what is this? It seems like you can flee with the back button at the top left there. Yeah. Is there a reason to even bump or try to use this when we can't use this? No, I guess there isn't. This very possibly is going to be a time management situation where you're going to try and speed up your fights, but also try to keep your health fairly high. If we start getting to the point where we're fighting enemies that have 100 health, or 200, 500, even 1,000 health, healing yourself in between each fight could be helpful. Saria said, I don't suppose you got any cassettes with you from literally any year after 1986. So yeah, I could go back and heal 6 that way, but no real reason. Interesting spatula, the flip a dice upside down, which would inherently mean you would have to know which side, what's on the opposite of every dice, which isn't that hard because the numbers always add up to 7. So if the game had told you that, then spatula would be useful. So if you have anything below 3, flip it upside down, you'll get at least 1 more. 3 goes to 4, 2 goes to 5, 1 goes to 6. That is a different way of, that gives you 2 options in which you would get +2 or more, versus bump, which always gives you +1, which I think probably does mean bump should be replaced with spatula. I do think you would want to keep healing crystals. Your organization over here doesn't seem to stay either, so that's something to keep in mind. This could get messy. Alright. So 4 there, 6 there, and you flip this upside down, and it gives you a 3, and you do this, and it gives you a healing crystal. And then you hit X, not start, to move forward. Dust Cloud does 2 damage on 6. It does. Yeah. Does some amount of damage on 2. It blinds 2 dice. And then Bloodsuck drains health. So there's a health draining function. Alright. So you just do that, and then you have a 6. And then we'll re-roll this one, re-roll this one, re-roll this one. That'll do 6 damage. That'll heal me back up some more. It does seem like they are hitting kind of hard now. So you're gonna have to keep an eye on your health. I'm gonna win here anyway, so the real move is just to re-roll for 3, I guess. Alright, we got another 4. That means I can spatula at 2 or 3. I can do a healing crystal. Oh, I guess I should have done Fury to get the healing crystal twice. Is there any benefit for doing overkill? I don't know, but I doubt it. Max health increased again. We now have another extra dice. And that puts us in a very nice position. So let's see what we can upgrade now. We have another character here. Hey, come in, come in. I don't think we've met. I'm Ned. I'm in charge of the equipment around here. So we could get sword +1, which would do 1 extra damage. We could do battle axe plus, which would seemingly do the exact same thing. It says 2 times the damage, where this says 1 times the damage +1. So I don't know if there's a real value in upgrading Battle Axe. We could increase the healing crystal by this much. How much is this all gonna cost to upgrade, though? Spatula plus 3 uses this turn versus 1 use per turn is kind of a major upgrade. But I think we'd start with sword plus. Alright, equipment upgraded. And it's a free upgrade, but you only get one of them. Which definitely means you potentially are just going to have to find more of those as you keep on playing, and eventually I do feel like this game is just going to get replaced, or you're going to get to an ending and then have to just play as a different character. So this time we have 5. We still couldn't buy everything. I could buy a broadsword for 2 gold right after I just upgraded the sword, but it is better, so even though that is kind of sucky, I guess you'd want that. I could also buy a target shield, but I don't think I'd use that. So broadsword replaces sword plus, which definitely highlights that I should have gone and purchased things first before upgrading. I guess we could just skip this fight completely if we wanted to, but then you wouldn't get the experience. Okay. So let's start with the Limit Fury Break. It's funny it's called Limit Break and Fury. They should really just have the same phrase twice. Alright. And yeah, there's nothing else to do here. And he has something weird with his effects. He has a lock 1 through 6. It unlocks a keyblade to return the dice. And then I don't know what the keyblade is supposed to do. This definitely feels like this is half a reference to Kingdom Hearts with keyblades, and maybe even Ghostbusters with the name Keymaster. So each roll unlocks something you can do. I assume that unlocks it for the entirety of the game. Yeah, Keyblade does 3 damage and returns the dice. Well, there's no reason to do anything else, so what you want to do here is just flip this to a 3, heal, and then take a 5 and win. These XP bars are going to get really, really small unless we hit a maximum. And there's kind of no reason to even pick up the health, so you might as well just leave it, just in case you come back and decide that you have to walk through this whole dungeon again. Also, it might unlock an achievement, or it might just give us more of a reward later on. Okay, let's go this way towards this fight. I feel like we would fairly quickly. Right. Let's just re-roll, I guess, this one. Alright, well, I'll spatula this for 5. I'll take this 5 for 7 damage. Do healing crystals for no reason in return. It does feel like we should be hitting a secondary boss. And that would be a good point to just end this episode. His fire attacks burn dice. Which maybe that means something, but maybe it doesn't. Let's see if we can just re-roll this. And then spatula this. And then do this. And then I'm just not going to do anything else. Yes, I could try to heal some more, and it is showing that healing might be useful. But what I want to see is if by not using the burn dice, we lose the burn in the next turn, which it seems like we would. Or maybe it just sets the remaining 4. We may have all 4 on fire next turn. Let's see what happens here. No, only 2 are on fire. Alright. So I'm gonna flip this to a 3. I'm gonna activate Fury, because that obviously doesn't carry over. I'm gonna heal myself up, and then I'm going to use this and win. And it'll be a while until we upgrade our health. Whip does fire damage on 6, inflicts 1 burn. So, seems like you can hurt yourself there, but Whip doesn't sound like a terrible attack. That being said, it doesn't burn dice, it just inflicts fire damage, which is different. And so you have this weird overlap, and doubling your attack on a 3 or 4 is always better than what you could get with Web. I guess if we were playing as a different character class, which I suspect we will eventually, we won't have that reroll, and that will drastically change the value of a lot of these items. Eventually, I think we are going to have to get rid of things that are in the backpack. Let's go this way so we can get to the food, in case this fight is difficult. Now, it says he's weak to fire, but we don't really know what that means. So, spatula 1, do a 6, reroll, reroll, reroll. Well, we get at least 1 health back from that. Highest dice rolled into a 1. Which doesn't really hurt you much when you have spatula. Like, spatula directly counters that attack. Alright, we'll reroll this and see if we can get a 3. And then we will heal. I guess if we upgraded the healing crystals so we could use it multiple times, there is major room for improvement there. I don't want to win, so I want to do this first. Now I could win with just a 2, but why not do overkill? At some point maybe I should go for an exact amount of damage to kill an enemy, but there's a high possibility that would just happen naturally anyways. 7 brings us back. Direwolf is strong against poison. Alright. Yeah, it definitely feels like your game could get fairly repetitive here, and I'm gonna run out of things to say. If he can get a double, he'll curse an enemy. That's an interesting attack. It's interesting also in that it kind of feels like that might take up even more space. Alright, so he has claws that does max 3 sword damage and adds poison. You lose 1 health at the start of turn, and it pierces shielding. But the cursing, potentially needing doubles in the future, is an interesting move. Okay. I'm going to start Fury now. And go ahead and double heal. And then I'm going to re-roll this and see if that double rolls. I guess I will go ahead and just re-roll this again. We'll take the 6 now. And we could re-roll, but there's no reason. We'll just spatula the 3, which will turn into a 4, which will do that. Oh. I am now recognizing that Fury doubles the exact next action, not every action in the turn. So there was a better way to play that, almost certainly. Alright, we're learning. That's the point of playing these video games this way in the beginnings of games, is that you're supposed to learn how the mechanics work. What happened there? It felt like that was cursed somehow. It definitely would be too slow of an experience. It really is worth it, though, to actually double your healing. More than anything. It would be too slow of an experience to... We'll just win here. To have enemies that could re-roll. Like, we probably will run into some enemies like that, but that would not really be what I would look for. It does also seem like there may not be that many varieties of weapons if we're already getting upgrade equipment. Yeah. Flipped a dice upside down 3 uses per turn. Or we could go +3 damage on broadsword. And I'm still not sure Battle Axe would do anything. But yeah, pretty obviously I want to go Healing Crystals upgrade. And then, what is this? We have yet another character. They all seem to be these like blue like demon characters. Hey, this is the trading post. You can trade something here if you absolutely insist. This would be trade your Battle Axe for a Toxic Ooze, which would just do damage, but if you got a 6 on it, it would roll to poison, which poison could be very helpful in longer fights, but I think we'll say no deal this time. And then that seems like it's always going to be the exact same deal, so it's going to leave it at that. Well, This is interesting. It doesn't seem like we are going anywhere as far as dungeons. It may very well be a case that this is just levels, level on top of level on top of level. We're level 5, we're on floor 5. Maybe we'll get a boss on floor 10, but we've almost gone a complete hour now, so I wouldn't really want to change things up here. We could try and clean up this a little bit more, but I doubt this is going to save and stay that way. I suspect at some point we'll run into an opportunity in which we could sell some of this items in our backpack. Otherwise, we are going to run into a situation where we're just tossing things, destroying things to get more room in the backpack, or we're just going to be full on the backpack, which, yeah, at that point, you really can't go much further in the game. We've already hit the maximum amount of actions that you can really have equipped. We could replace things with smaller things, but I imagine if it is an attack, it will always take up 2 spaces, and if it is some kind of green assistive effect, then it will take up 1 space. There is not, under the pause options, like, not a way to really see your stats, although you really wouldn't need to see your stats. Yeah, windowed mode with a 2x would work if you just wanted the window to be bigger, if you had a higher resolution. You could disable shaders, you could disable on-screen effects, you could slow down combat animations. I don't think you'd do any of that. I could see potentially turning down the music. As far as voices, there aren't that many voices in the game, so that's pretty deceptive to even have that option. And yes, if the game gets really hard, which I doubt it will, we could do relaxed mode. This is the pop-up screen it starts with as far as how many different languages it supports, which, yeah, when you have a game that doesn't have much dialogue like this game, I imagine that's not super difficult. Now, arguably, you could complain about maybe too much animation going on here, but I don't know how you would really make that complaint. The fact that they've done like 2 frames of animation for each character and they've made a ton of variety in characters is probably a really nice thing. This isn't going to come off as a dungeon crawler where you're just fighting the exact same image of a troll over and over again. I wouldn't be surprised if we aren't constantly seeing new characters, and maybe we'll see some characters come back in more powerful forms, or we'll maybe just never see new characters at all. Is any of this being randomized? That's another good question. I'm not sure I believe that it is. I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't very much bespoke designed levels, handcrafted levels, as far as the layouts of the dots, the layouts of the enemies, the layouts of the pickups. There may be some randomization as far as what you get out of chests and what you get in the store, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is handcrafted too, to make a very nice experience. In a lot of ways, this is the best way to experience a dungeon crawler if you don't want randomization. Oh, this feels like a game. It could be a good way to experience that, at least. Just because you're not going to get bad rolls, or it doesn't seem like you're going to get bad rolls. Now, of course, the game could get very difficult down the road, and I may be very annoyed with the game eventually if it does get very difficult. If we make our way to like level 100 or floor 100, and there's just a nightmare scenario of boss battles or really, really strong enemies, and fights are taking 20 minutes each, that could get crazy. I'm not sure it really is going to go down that direction, because in the lower right hand corner we have 5 skulls out of 5 skulls, or 5 skulls out of 6 skulls lit up, which kind of implies that floor 6 might be the end of this dungeon run, and they may have several floors where you get to floor 6, or I may straight up just be done with the warrior run and an entire playthrough in the next floor. We'll just have to find out in the next episode. That's going to be it for this episode. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and give me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.